I've got 2 weeks left until I retire. And I'm super excited about what the future holds for Robbie and I, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm also a little bit nervous. I'm not nervous because I think I should stay working. I'm more nervous about what our new life is going to be like. This is a huge life change, and you don't know what's in the future. So I think it's pretty natural to be nervous about it. I'm kind of curious how you guys dealt with it. If you're already retired, whether that's recently or for a while, what were your last few weeks like? Were you just chomping at the bit and full steam ahead no matter what, or was there some hesitancy? Did you have second thoughts towards the end? I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not having any second thoughts about this being the time for me to retire. You know, we documented it in the video, kind of where I announced my retirement. I feel like God has called me to retire at this time. I'm gonna do a new ministry at our church called Foundations of Care, where we're going to try to reach out and help some people that need it. And I think that's what I'm supposed to do. So again, I'm excited about what the future holds in that area. So I am sure about what at least part of what I'm going to do in retirement, and that maybe calms the nerves a little. I think one of the things that's kind of giving me pause, and I say that, but I'm not questioning whether I should retire, is just the change in the people that I'm going to interact with every day. I have a pretty good team that I work with, both within my department, that these folks that work for me, my boss is great, and the people that surround me, the other departments that work closely with mine at work. I am really blessed. The last job that I'm going to do in my working life is one that I really enjoy, and one that I feel like I've made some positive impact on the company that I work for and the team that works for me. So I think some of it is just, I get a lot of joy just from being around those people. And that's just not going to be the case anymore. Right. So, I mean, there's one of the gals at work that she runs our front desk. She's a few years older than me, and I have spent, since I've made the decision, I've spent a lot of time trying to convince her that she needs to really take a look at it. Maybe it's time for her to move on to the next stage of life too. I mean, she is a wonderful woman that has a lot to give, and she just gives it to work. And you know what? She is appreciated at our job, and sometimes I wonder if she's just worried that she won't have that satisfaction of helping people on a day-to-day basis, which is why she stays. And if she decides to stay, and I'll continue to pray for her that she has the joy that she needs. But I also think that she can find that joy on her own schedule a little bit and start to enjoy her final third of life like I'm planning to enjoy my final third. There's other people at work that I care about as well. That one of the guys that work for me, going through kind of a rough medical situation as well. He's just a couple years younger than me, and I'm asking him, like, what is your plan for the future? And he really didn't have a plan. He still doesn't have a plan. And I spent the last couple days with him and just talking to him about it's great if you want to keep working, but I think there ought to be you ought to have an end date in mind, or a goal that you can set, and it's not a number, right? It's not an age. I mean, it could be a number money wise or financially, but it doesn't have to be an age that you have to get to. There's just so much more to life, and we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And as much as I love my job, and as much as you may love your job, chances are it'll go on if you're not there. And after a few weeks, they'll still know your name. Some people may miss you, but the work's going to get done, and that's just the reality of it. So if your company or your job will be able to do this without you, shouldn't you be thinking about what you can do for you when you get to be about around our age? Like, what can you do that's going to give you joy that doesn't revolve around making a paycheck? Sometimes I feel like I spend too much time trying to convince you to retire. And if it's not time for you to retire, more power to you. All I would say is, I hope you're not working to an age or a certain number. work until you have what you need to be able to do what you want, right? And be realistic about it. So the question now for us is, what are we going to do? And one thing that, I did an interview a couple months ago with my friend Linda, and she made a comment that she tried to not commit to anything for a full year. Now, I know I'm not going to be able to do that because I've already committed to this Foundations of Care ministry at my church. But I have been amazed, and again, I look for like your guys' take on it as well. I've been amazed at how much our calendar is actually filling up. I'm not even retired yet, and we've got like 4 different places we're going to go that are on our calendar that are taking weeks or more of our time out of this first summer that we're going to have. And I could see how it would be pretty easy just to start filling up the calendar. And then I worry a little bit about, am I going to feel like I'm retired? Am I going to feel like the time is really mine? Or am I just switching a paid for job for a bunch of activities that aren't allowing me to relax and maybe really enjoy this next, at least the beginning of this next phase of my life? So my plan, at least to start off with, is, I'm retiring on May 2nd. The next week is kind of the final week of turkey season here in Missouri. And I'm going to spend some time in the woods, sitting against a tree, contemplating my future and my life. I'm not the guy that contemplates things in a negative way. I'll be looking for the new ways that I can find joy and bring some purpose to my life, but also just kind of taking a breath and relaxing and moving into this phase. But, as I said a second ago, we are finding that, we already have a plan for the first week in June and the last week in June and the first week in July and the last week in July. Now, these are all things that are already on our calendar that we've got things to do. And that's not even taking into account that I want to get back up to Iowa where my mom is and where I have a lot of friends, and I want to be able to touch base and not be in the situation where I show up on a Friday and I got to get out of there on a Sunday because we've got a drive back home. I can spend some time, kind of really reconnecting with my family and friends. So those are all really joyful things I'm looking forward to. But I can see how the calendar could really fill up quickly. One thing that I think is going to help us from filling up our calendar is that Robbie is still working on a part-time basis. Now, she's not doing it because we need the money necessarily. I think she's doing it more so she has something to do that's a little bit structured. As, again, she's talked about in other videos, I think she's not through her own doing has kind of falling into a sort of retirement mindset, but she still desires to have this, bring in a little bit of income for whatever reason, but she wants to bring it in, and she also likes to be able to use her caregiving self and to help some other people. So she is still doing that. And the benefit for me is that, we have to be here sometimes so she can do that. So we're not going to be, committing to weeks long activities, at least not right away. Now, that's not to say if we decide, hey, we need to be gone for a couple of weeks or we want to be gone for a couple of weeks, we can, because again, the benefit of her only working part-time, especially in the job that she's doing, is she can say, I can't work the next couple of weeks, or I can't work these 2 weeks in July. So, good for us that we don't need it, and good for her that she has that sort of job. But that will help us, again, kind of stay free a little bit. One of the things that Robbie and I are talking about is where we're going to go with this channel. Now, our intention is to kind of document how early retirement now is treating us, like what we're doing, what we're finding, what's hard, what adjustments are we making, what adjustments didn't we see coming. So all the kind of questions that I've asked people that are already retired, I want to try to answer them myself for you and see how they compare to your experiences. And I'd really appreciate it if you guys had dropped some things that surprised you about retirement, or maybe some things, if you're not retired yet, some things that are worrying you about at least the early stages of retirement. And we'll make some notes of those things, and then we'll look for those as they come up so that I can comment on them and maybe put your fears to rest, rest, or maybe say, yeah, that's a real thing, something that you need to be prepared for. It's been asked, so what am I going to do in retirement? My plan is I'm going to play some pickleball. I'm not going to probably do it 3 days a week, which is, one of my buddies wants me to do that, but I am going to do that, and probably more likely as the weather turns again in the fall, I may actually commit to that. I want to commit to a gym membership so that I can keep my health up where it needs to be, and be able to, live my best life in going forward. And then it's just, I want to play golf. I'm going to do this stuff with my church. And I don't know that I can commit more to the YouTube channel. I'd probably spend enough time at it now, but there are ways that I can maybe do a better service to those of you that are watching by trying to find topics that are interesting. So, again, if there's things out there that you really want us to talk about, it'd be great if you'd leave those things in the comments. The last thing I want to touch on again is the comments that I'm getting from people when I tell them that I'm retiring. I get everything from congratulations, that's great, I'm happy for you, and I truly believe that's probably 75% of the people that I interact with. But there's also the people that take it as an opportunity to remind me of, wow, did you see the stock market today? Or are you sure your portfolio is ready for the crash that's coming? And I refuse to let those kind of people bring me down. I refuse to look at my future from a negative perspective. Again, God has prompted me to say this is the time, and I know God's going to take care of me going forward, take care of us going forward. We are prepared financially. I did the things that I need to do to have a varied sort of portfolio to be able to withstand the ups and downs of the market. And if you're not doing that, I would suggest that you make sure that you're doing those things, because investments vary, right? And you have to be prepared for that. But what's sad about it is the people that I talk to that either come right out and say it, or the sense you get is they can't retire because they just don't know what they'd do if they weren't working. And my encouragement to people out there is you can give back. You can give back to your community. You can spend more time with your kids. You can spend time with your grandkids. You could do a lot of things that if you can financially not work, you can get joy in another way. And what better way to kind of close out or spend your final third than finding another way to bring joy to the world, joy to your world, and maybe giving joy to other people in the world. So, as I've said before, don't have this number in your head, whether it's an age or a dollar amount. Find out what you really need, shoot for that, and then go out and find that new way of giving joy. I'm going to link to the video here of Linda when I talked to her about her retirement. I truly appreciate you guys watching us, and we'll continue to do this going forward. 2 more weeks, and we'll see what my first few days of retirement are like. Thanks for watching. God bless.